Go ahead. What's on your mind?
What's up, dog?
What's on your mind?
Hey, so I had a tweet that kind of took off that actually got your attention the other day. Basically, where I had said the reason I remain Protestant is church history and why I don't become Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this back and forth where I told you I actually agree with a lot of Orthodox things, but there's some stuff that prevents me from actually becoming Orthodox. And then you asked, well, what is it? So I came on here just to bring those things up and see if you can help me out a little bit, because I'd love to be convinced.
Sure.
Quick facts. I'm a Presbyterian pastor. I was an inquirer in 2020 during COVID. It was an OCA church. I ended up not joining for a couple reasons, but actually some of those reasons that I had back then, I actually agree with now, but I'm just still not all the way there. And I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have to start teaching Orthodox things to Presbyterians from the pulpit because I believe them so much, but there's still some things that hold me back. So I'm gonna lay out my biggest thing, and I want you to take over from there if that's okay.
Sure. What's the first one?
Okay, so my big thing that I studied during my Master's of Divinity, and pretty much every single graduate paper I wrote on had to interlink Hebrews 8 and 9 with Leviticus 16. Basically, how Jesus fulfills the great high priesthood, and his atonement is the perfect atonement as compared to the atonement, sacrifice, and everything from Leviticus 16. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I came to the conclusion in reading Leviticus 16 that it seems like the Roman Catholic, and not as much, but still the Orthodox Church, have a conflation of terms when it comes to sacrifice and atonement, to where I just believe it's been bad exegesis, and Council of Trent has dogmatized and made it anathema that you have to believe that the Mass is a sacrifice. In particular, they use these words that I can't get along with. They call it the altar of the cross. Are you aware of this, the altar of the cross?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the thing is altars in the Old Testament and in the New Testament are not where atonement is made. So if in the Mass you're going in this transcendental, timeless place and you're revisiting the sacrifice, okay, cool. You're not getting any effects from the sacrifice because the sacrifice has nothing to it. It's just one step in the process of atonement. In Leviticus 16, if you want to look at the Orthodox Study Bible, or if you want to look at the NKJV, there's a step-by-step process that the great high priest has to go through. The atonement is not done until every step is finished.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm not sure why you think that we have to agree to Trent's definition. Why are you asking me about Trent?
Well, because we're going to get to the liturgy of the Orthodox Church, where I believe how you treat the Eucharist, and where all of this kind of falls apart. But this has to lead up to it, or it's not going to work. Okay. So first steps are the priest has to wash himself. He has to put on new garments. Okay. Step number 2, they kill the animal outside of the tent. This is important. So animal is killed and the blood is shed outside of the tent. Step 3, they're going to take that animal once it's killed, and they're going to carry it to an altar still outside of the Holy of Holies. So it's closer inside of the tabernacle.
So, bro, I mean, I'm not trying to be rude, but like I'm aware of the process of how the Jewish liturgy happens. But what's the point of this?
Okay, atonement is not done until blood is sprinkled on the hilasterion, on the mercy seat. Okay, so Jesus's atonement is not finished on the cross. Jesus has just done his sacrifice on the cross. The atonement, from what I'm getting in my reading and my exegesis,
yeah, he has to ascend into heaven, right?
Exactly, correct.
Yeah, I believe that. So what's the problem?
You do believe that? Okay, this is great. This is awesome. This is going to help me out then. So it seems to me that the Roman Catholic Church skips this step, and they're saying that it's the cross where it's the altar, it's the hilasterion, it's everything that all happens at the cross. Even the penal substitutionary atonement for the Protestant, it all happens on the cross. The atonement happens on the cross, but I don't think that's the case. It happens in the Ascension. So you're saying the Eastern Orthodox teach this?
Well, again, it's not an either or. It's like all of those things are necessary aspects of Christ making atonement or reconciling us to God. So you can't pick out one part of it and say that that's the totality of it. But there's nothing wrong with using terms to speak about one part that encompass the whole. That's just kind of the way language works. Like you can say, Christ made atonement, even if you're only speaking about one aspect of it. We wouldn't conclude that because one aspect of it is just one aspect of it, you can't make the general term about that one aspect. Does that make sense?
I get that. So you're saying you can refer to the cross as the thing that atones, even though in reality it was just a step in the process.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I get that. I mean, I can jive with that as long as that's something
just
everybody
like
gets.
I'm trying to think of other examples where you might speak this way, like the Ark of the Covenant, right? Like, is the Ark of the Covenant Jesus's human body, or is it Mary, or is it us walking around as individual people? All three.
Yeah.
So if I call Mary the Ark, that doesn't exclude the other senses of it.
Got you.
That's just the first thing that pops in my head as an example.
Okay, so what you're going to say then is if, in the liturgy, if you call it an altar of sacrifice, it's technically okay because when you're referencing this thing, you're talking about the totality from beginning to end, not just.
Yeah.
Okay, well that kind of changes everything there, Jay.
I mean,
okay.
I've not heard this objection, so but that's just my initial response.
It's something that came up to me, in my graduate work that I hadn't heard either, and so I think I'm just some retard who's thinking of something, But when I look things up, there's only been one other guy who's written stuff on it, so it's like I'm probably the one that's wrong. But when I'm looking these things up, it's I can't get around it.
One thing I would say about a lot of Protestant objections is that most of the time they hinge on false dialectics or either ors. So it's sort of like, oh, well, do you believe in grace? Because it sounds like you believe in works. Do you believe in Bible, or do you believe in tradition? Sounds like you believe in tradition. Like, it's sort of like a lot of either ors, and they're usually false constructed either ors that are based around misunderstandings of language or word concept fallacies.
Okay, I can track with that. So there's going to be one more thing. So I agree with the Orthodox view of ancestral sin. I do not believe in original sin, and I even had a pastor preach a sermon series against Pelagianism because of me. So,
well, you're not going to be able to be a Presbyterian very long with that.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, bro. So, I'm getting there. But anyway, so what's up with the intinction in the liturgy, and why do we choose it to go that way than take, eat, take, drink?
I don't understand. What?
So I see in Scripture, when Jesus commands and he institutes the Lord's Supper, he says, take this, all of you, and eat. And he says, drink this. So he says two separate things. He wants you to eat and drink separately. In Scripture, I don't see a valid reason for intinction to be the way that the Eucharist is consumed. And then if you're looking anything up right now, I just want to say,
no, I'm just, again, it's not I've not heard this objection. I mean, I think that there's a lot of things about what's happening in the upper room, right? Because it's still a Passover meal, right? Yes. So what's happening in the upper room is a transition from the Passover meal to what Jesus is instituting. So there's aspects of that meal that are not necessarily going to carry over into the tradition of the church. I mean, that would be my first inclination. It's like, it's not the case that everything that happens in the Gospels or even the book of Acts is necessarily perpetually, eternally the case for the history of the church. That's why Jesus didn't establish a specific ritual for the apostles. He let the apostles craft a liturgical tradition for the apostolic sees that they set up. So there's probably something that happened within church history like that caused the church to do this that I'm not aware of. And you would have you could ask a liturgical historian that. I don't know.
I'm seeing a similar problem, just speaking out loud with myself, is where I'm being hyper autistic about the steps given in Scripture, and I get it, my Protestant background, but it's like, if it's not detailed in this order, in this way, it can't be right. But there's something I'm rewiring.
Yeah, there's not in the New Testament a written instruction of a liturgy, and I keep making this argument that that's on purpose because Jesus wants us to trust the apostolic tradition, and that's precisely why he didn't put a divine liturgy within the Bible. Like, in divine providence, Jesus could have ordered it to where Paul has an extra epistle that is the worship service, and then everybody would have had easy answers to to their worship service procedure questions, right? But there isn't one. Why? Well, there's some necessary reliance on tradition, and that's just one example. It's not the only example. I mean, the canon itself is another one of those examples. But if there's not a liturgical pattern of worship explicitly, a worship service in the Bible, the only other thing we could go to is tradition. So,
yeah, it was funny to me because, one of the main arguments I would make, and I'll stop taking up time because I waited a long time. I'm sure other people are too.
But let me add one last point, is just that I don't think any church explicitly does every single ritual or operation identical to the New Testament. I know a lot of groups like Messianic Jews or people like a lot of people want to try to do that, or restorationist, reformist movements, but I don't think anybody actually does it because there's so many things in the written text itself that we don't know, and there's aspects that were occurring at the time of the upper room and then into the book of Acts that were in that transition period, which are literally kind of impossible. Like Paul still in the book of Acts, they're still going to the temple to pray, right?
Yeah.
And we can't do that. There's no temple. So should we build temples because the book of Acts has it? That's the logic of evangel. I'm not saying you have this view, but evangelical premillennialists have this logic of well, we got to do everything that is happening in the book of Acts, and there's a temple, and Paul and the believers are still praying in the temple. So we should support the Jews to have a third temple. I mean, that's ridiculous reasoning because you're not understanding that the closing of that whole redemptive historical period is the destruction of the temple. 70 AD is a big part of this, right? So when the temple's removed, there's no more need for Jewish temple. The Orthodox Church is the Jewish temple, the true spiritual Jewish temple, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, you said it exactly. It's right to call me out on that too, because I am that way. I don't want to intink, because in John 13:21 through 26, the only one who intinks is Judas. In the King James, they say the one I give the sop. That's somion in Greek. It's like a piece of bread dipped in the common dish. So I'm like, Judas is the one that has the sop.
But again, remember, we're not having a Passover meal. It's not literally, we're not literally redoing Jewish Passover. We're doing the new Passover, right? Correct. So not every aspect of Jesus's upper room Passover meal is going to necessarily transition into what we do. Volpe says his argument is the Orthodox do intinction because in the early church there were false converts that were stealing the Eucharist to do rituals. Taint nothing, $20. Excuse me, never mind. That was a different topic. But so that's one response on that.
Cool. Yeah, and that still happens today with black masses. So I get it, dude. Yeah. I appreciate you.
No, hey, great questions, and feel free to hop on anytime. I appreciate your questions, Corey. There we go.